use prior knowledge to discover causal
I want to ask you a question.
We've
How to increase the number of non-commercial space launches
didn't mention,
per
right?
year.
So for most of these methods,
and I don't
want
you to
answer this question.
All of the methods
that
we
mentioned so far,
using
we assume
data,
that there are no unobserved
and then
variables.
I will ask
right?
you a question, and
so
I would like to hear
unobserved
you answer
confounders.
What you think
particular.
about this answer? So
this method
data-driven answer
works
is
on
to
time
increase
series
the
data
number of
and allows
PhDs
us
in
to
sociology
discover
in the
uncover
US.
the causal structure
And the
with
data
unobserved variables.
that shows that
this
relaxes
answer,
some of the assumptions that we make in terms of certain criteria
of the causal causal discovery algorithm.
Is plausible is this data.
As a side note,
there's a correlation
version of PC
between
that works
the
with
number of sociology doctorates awarded in the United States
variables, you
and
can
worldwide
use FCI
non-commercial
fast causal
space launches. And this correlation
is
pretty strong,
not a full
and it
bag
holds
always,
consistently
but it
for
can,
over a
at least in
decade,
some
from
cases,
1997
uncover
to
the fact
2009.
that there is a hidden confounder. So that would be
is
another,
this a good
another
candidate for a causal
and this method is particularly
That's my question
that
to
you
you.
see on the screen. Is particularly designed to work with the time series.
You want us to check the chat maybe for you?
And you can see that the performance is really pretty,
because I'm checking if there's some answer,
especially compared with other methods.
No.
You can see var lingam, so this is a variation of the lingam algorithm that we've seen
I don't
before.
think it's related.
Okay. Why do you think it's with a big enough sample size approaching 2,000 observations
for a causal
we
explanation?
can go well beyond
let's check. So Satish saying answer is no.
Accuracy.
No way. The answer is
why?
Precision around 0.8,
why is it not a
which
good
gives
candidate?
us
So we expect something
score
different from just
around
no.
8.
Coincidence.
0.5
Royson says
complex.
it's a coincidence.
So these are
it
really
might be a
pretty good
coincidence,
results,
but why
and
is it
that's
well,
that's,
given what we've seen here,
definitely
why
good
do we
enough
think
in many practical
this is
use
not
cases?
not a good answer?
And that's another recent paper.
It might be a coincidence,
from
and that's fine.
Francesco Locatello.
But we look at the data, and now
with Patrick Bleubaum
what makes
from
us
Amazon,
think that
Elke
they are
Kirchmann
not
also
related.
from Amazon.
strong?
I like
Philip
this answer. They are
Fala
not
and
related
Francesco
from
Montagna
Satish.
from
They are not
University of
related.
Genoa.
How do we know they are not
and
related?
they use a family of algorithms related
or maybe
to
someone
lingam.
else in the chat. How do we know, or why do we
And
think
this
they
family
are
is
not
called
related?
score matching. The
So
idea
Bjorn
behind
is saying,
this,
again, we only see a
this approach is
statistical
called score
correlation between
matching.
two output patterns.
And they generalize some of the
that is
ideas
correct. That is correct.
we
But
learned
sometimes
about, for lingam.
here we understand what those
they
variables
allow,
means, right? But sometimes we go
these
to the
algorithms
world and we
to work
observe
with
something,
linear,
and we only see
data,
the correlations. We don't maybe even know
data
where we have
So we
variables.
have two people that are raising
So
hands.
this
So I'm
is
going to
very,
open the mic
very
to Jeremy.
flexible
Please do.
approach.
Please
Yes,
do.
let's hear from
pretty
them.
new.
Jeremy, how you doing?
And there are many very
you can
promising
talk now. You just have
results.
to mute your
All
mic.
that said, causal discovery and causal inference in general,
How you doing?
Hi, Jeremy.
always comes
Jeremy.
with a
Yeah,
noise.
yours.
About that,
And in a
I
sense,
didn't mean to
causal
unmute, but that's
modeling
okay. I guess
is
yeah, the correlation
causal methodology
is not
is the
causation. We
scientific
know that.
methodology.
I mean, that's the
We
topic
really
of the
go
day,
and
I
discover
guess.
something new.
But yeah,
And
I
this
mean,
is not always
having
easy.
something
But this doesn't mean
awarded,
that we should not try.
correlating with
And we see
basically
many great
a
examples,
fact
applied
that's
examples of
launching
causal modeling
non-commercial
in industry
rockets.
that really help companies move
is not a
forward and
straight,
build a very strong
and
competitive
even
advantage
indirect link
compared
between the
to
two of them. I
companies
mean,
that
a
do not
paper
use causal
and
modeling.
a
And before we
discovery
move
is
to
obviously
the Q&A,
difficult to correlate together, in my opinion.
This
So,
yeah. quote from
Thanks.
Yuval Noah Harari.
Thank you for sharing, Jeremy.
The big revolution
I
which
see we
launched
also have some
modern
more answers
science
here in the
was
chat,
a
and so
discovery of
I just
ignorance.
will try
For
to
thousands of
briefly
years,
summarize
people
them.
thought they know
So
everything.
one of the answers that
Science
I
began
think is
when some humans admitted
nice
we
here
don't know
is from
everything.
Javier, and Javier
Now,
says
when we have
our
courage
model
to
of the
admit our
world
ignorance,
tells us
we can
they
start
should not
investigating.
influence each
And
other.
that's
And then we
science.
have a couple of
Thank you so much.
other answers that are
So
suggesting
that
that
was
there
well
might be
put
a
together.
third variable
Thank
that
you,
is
Alexander.
impacting
That was
both of those
an
variables.
amazing
And
presentation.
then we will see a
I'm
correlation,
sure that
of
a lot
course.
of people
But
from the community are going
they
to
don't have
like
to be
watching probably several times.
causally related themselves.
Let's jump to the
So they can be correlated through a causal impact of another
I have a question
variable.
from.
That's a great idea.
Let me check because
And
I
then
kind
we
of
have
liked
another
it. Yeah,
answer here from Björn.
How to keep
Usually
on top
we have rival
of
causal theoretic explanations in our
machine
head,
research
which
in
we
these
test
times
or
of
falsify
everything
using the
LLMs.
empirical observations.
That's a great idea.
That's a great question.
Again,
Causality
became
from Andreas and
a field like
about
5, 6, 7 years ago.
About
you could probably have a good grasp of everything in
causal
modeling
events.
Yes.
Niche.
Great.
But
Alexander,
today it's impossible.
is it fair to say that they are not listening to each other?
I had this.
For one of my talks.
So this is something
2 years ago in Berlin.
where I said that
you
in
went ahead of the
2022,
presentation.
there were
That's a great intuition.
So
yes, thank you for sharing. Definitely,
new papers.
So causality released on our archive each day.
So most of us, at least,
and I wanted to
all of
update
us
this
agree
year.
that they
I
are
just
not a
checked it
good
and,
candidate. That this is not a
over
good
the last
candidate
12 months
for a causal explanation.
It's already 8
sociology
papers
doctorate.
It's not a good candidate for a causal explanation.
This is
of the
exponential
number
growth,
of
and
non-commercial
this growth
space
continues
launches,
already
even though they are very
for 5 years
strongly and
at least,
consistently correlated.
as long
And
as
if we look at
as far
something
as I am
like
aware of this.
Bradford
Hill
It
criteria,
might be difficult.
we'll see that
I'm
strong
trying
correlation
to make
according
it
to those
more
criteria,
accessible. So
and
if
a
you scan
correlation
this
that is
QR code,
consistent,
there will be a newsletter.
We are
there.
recommended to treat this
And
as
so in this
indications of
newsletter, every
potential
week,
causal
you will
explanation.
get a selection of new papers, or sometimes old papers.
Those two criteria are definitely
selection
not
of
enough
sometimes code examples
to
use cases from industry,
that there's a causal relationship
possible.
between
Many NDAs are very
restrictive
in this area. I noticed, like more restrictive even in
midterm.
I used to work with
is that causal knowledge goes beyond the data itself.
I think that has
some
been
of the biggest
captured
companies
here
in the
one
world,
of the
but I feel
comments
like
about causal
when you do
models
causal
that
projects,
we already have
in our head
for some reason
causal
theoretic
restrictive,
explanations, as Bjorn called it.
So we don't always
that we are trying to
always talk about.
We are trying to
real
world use
those
cases, but sometimes we can
into the context.
Whenever I see a good use case, or I can share something from my own practice, I do it in the newsletter as well to inspire the community to show people, we can do this. There's some skepticism sometimes, which is really unfounded regarding this method. So I think that's important. So if you, going back to your original question, that was a very long detour.
Would that be plausible given all we know about the world?
You can sign to the newsletter. And I hope that
I
will
want
be
us
helpful
to
for you on Twitter.
Remember this takeaway,
because you can follow the hashtag Causal Twitter,
in a couple of slides.
Happy Twitter, and Econ Twitter.
Maybe
people
more,
are
10 slides.
Also talking about causality.
But this idea will be important for us. That causal
there's a number of people you can follow on LinkedIn and Twitter.
And statistical patterns in the data.
What else? There's also a Discord server for my book.
Here's
So
the
if you want to
definition
ask
from
some questions, you can go
causality
there.
is the
Another
relationship
great
between
Discord
causes
server
and
is
effects.
for
And this comes from
DUI, the
Wikipedia,
library, from an article library. Originally developed by Amit Sharma and Emre Kijiman at
our time is
Microsoft.
Limited, so I will
now it's an independent project, but there are many people who can help you as well. So
the
I think
audience,
this resources newsletter,
if the
audience
thinks that
LinkedIn, and this Discord servers.
And some people think it's a good definition.
That sounds great. So I think a lot of questions that are on the chat now are probably going to be asked on those channels.
Using
one thing, Alexandre, because I think it's a French name, so I have to go with my French accent. They're asking a very nice
definition.
So it's not you, Alexander, it's Alexandre.
But it's
are there
also
any supervised
not necessarily very useful
in causal discovery?
Because it doesn't
this question
tell
is for
anything
Jean,
about
actually, because he's working
like,
on something
some
for
kind
the
of a relationship.
So maybe Jean, you can touch base on this very briefly right after the last question to Alexander. So maybe Alexander, if you want to leave,
about those
you feel free to leave.
Basic
the last question I'm going to ask is a question from
So we have more
Xavier.
Definitions of causality.
One important aspect of ML is estimating prediction
Plato,
uncertainty.
for instance, said that causation is not
causal
physical,
discovery
but
methods
metaphysical.
come with techniques to understand
Which, if you
how
think about
uncertain
Plato's ideas,
great question.
Might make
great
sense.
question.
So there are certain ideas.
Like there's a Bessie algorithm from Microsoft.
Conjunction,
we are trying to frame the causal discovery as a Bayesian problem, and we try to put some Bayesian uncertainty over this.
That's only one,
but that's not
definitional
criterion
for
straightforward.
Because we don't have a ground truth here. So for instance,
there's another one that is more counterfactual.
Maybe in the ideal world,
but this one is psychological.
We could try
conformalizing causal discovery,
right?
But
we have two different
in the real world
cases.
We don't have any reference distribution.
One is repeatedly following the other. We are getting used
another
to
way.
This.
You can think about uncertainty that they are look at p-values. If your independence, conditional independence tests are providing this information, you can look at p-values for us to which is, as we know, it's not a measure of uncertainty really, right? But it can give you some indication. Can imagine a person that was living for these 12 years from 1997 to 2009 and was observing space launches and PhD now the number of PhD null hypothesis according to this definiation. So this relationship, so these are some ideas should have been, but this is largely an unsolved problem, at least as far as I'm concerned. And regarding Alexandre's question, I think you said that Jean has something to say about this.
So about supervised methods.
So I don't know, Jean, what you know. Just like as a quick side note, there are some works, I think, from Francesco Locatello's group as well, that talk about supervised causal discovery. And this is a very interesting topic, by the way. So I'm curious what you will say, Jean.
Well, there is a way to kind of embed the causal graph in a very classical, supervised learning X and Y kind of setup with one huge data set. I want to put together a notebook that I'm going to share by the end of the week for sure, with a concrete example here. But you could embed, for example, instead of looking at the value of the different variable of the system, you could look at, for example, the covariance of the different variable together, and what is the maximum covariance, the minimum covariance, what is the standard deviation of that covariance, what is, all the mutual information, all the descriptive statistics that can happen in one DAG, and then train the model to predict the agency matrix that you showed before with the relationship right together. And you can put that together under quite a classical supervised learning. I don't know how it will perform. Try some random forest on top of that. It's not too bad, but it's still in the context of that specific competition. So I'm not sure if it will perform somewhere else, but I'll put that together.
Right. Guys, thanks for your time. Alexander, I can't thank you enough for having taken the time to be with us today. That was a very, very great time for the community. So hopefully all the questions that we didn't have time to answer to are going to be asked to you on your channels. Guys, also join the newsletter. Very quality content there. Alexander, thanks again. Maybe you want to say something to just call it a quit, or are we good?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm super happy to have so many great questions today. I really appreciate all the participants.
Thank you, Alexander. So guys, let's go and join the Alexander social media channels and ask the question there. Let's create engagement, and let's create some trends around causal discovery and causal AI. Thanks everyone for being with us today. This is a recorded session, so you'll find the link on YouTube if you want to go through all the content. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.